I always like to make sure that we're super ready before I turn on the camera.
I was clearly not.
That was the joke. I want funny, please.
Boo. Boo. Hiss. Boo.
I have a feeling I'm going to be booed and hissed a lot tonight, so it's fine.
Probably because you've got opinions.
I do have opinions. I don't like the movie.
Oh, what's that?
It makes me feel many things. I have big feelings too. Okay, we'll give it a little bit. Give people time to get here. You know, all that jazz.
Pre-responded. She should be here momentarily, I imagine.
Pre-responded?
Yeah, she was like, thanks for the reminder.
Did you let Green Gorilla know that we're actually live?
No.
He sometimes just shows up, but I don't know how he knows. He must have his notifications on.
Probably.
Because he doesn't have social media. Like an insane person. Love you if you see this later. James set up the bassinet. It's very nice. Alright. I also wanted to tell him I feel bad that we didn't stream, but somebody was working late every night.
Yeah.
And I also couldn't move for most of the week, so... I rolled an 18. That's how good this episode's gonna be.
I love that.
What you looking at?
How bad the game was.
You said you were gonna avoid everything about it.
Yeah, when I accidentally saw the first spoiler.
And then you were just like, I can't not know.
From then on, I was like... I thought to myself, okay, if it goes really bad, I don't want to turn it on in front of company tomorrow.
Because James is just going to be upset.
Because I'm just going to be frustrated. And based on the after-action report from Evan Rawal, it was a really, really bad night.
I stole your fidget, I'm sorry.
It was so bad, the team held a players-only meeting in Florida after the game. They kicked everyone out of the room. Which means Nathan McKinnon may have destroyed the Florida dressing room. I'm not going to lie to you. It might be a bad look. They got shut out 4-0, and they let Georgiev face 26 shots in the second period. That is apocalyptic.
I don't know how I feel about this orange cream water.
Well, when you say it like that, it sounds terrible.
This is why I don't know if I'd like air ups, because I know that's like the big thing that all the
what
air ups.
The fuck is an air up?
That's the little ring you put on your water bottle that makes you smell things, but doesn't change the taste of your water. And this is why I don't know if I'd like it, because I smell orange cream, but I don't.
I taste it.
I have feelings. I have so many feelings tonight. All right, one more minute and then we'll get started. Any other small talks? How you feeling? How you doing?
This is just the saddest thing I'm reading. It's really
sadder than the movie we just watched.
Oh no! And McKinnon left the game after he hit his face on the ice.
Wow, it was a bad game.
It's a bad game. Oh, it's a really bad. I told my dad it was gonna be a rough one, but it's a really bad game. Ooh.
Well, let's not talk about that. Are you ready? There's my mouth. There's my mouth. You ready to talk about other things?
Okay, hold on.
What's your funny title for your notes?
Edward Knife Fingers.
Did you see what I mean though when I said that wasn't like not accurate, because they're not just scissors.
There's like lots of bladed instruments on his hands. It's not just scissors, and also you can very clearly tell. Okay, all right, hang on. I gotta save it for the show because there's like
you have thoughts about the actual anatomical structure of Edward.
I got thoughts about it. All right.
Okay. All right.
When we start the show, we'll get it on.
All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
I could see his hands though.
I mean, he just does have gloves. Johnny Depp has fingers.
Yeah, but like, okay, the inventor is the prime antagonist of the movie.
He just wanted a buddy.
No. He didn't mean to be the prime antagonist of the movie. He didn't mean to be the bad guy.
He didn't mean to die.
He didn't mean to die. But let's think about what he did. He made a man
Mm-hmm.
after making the world's most complicated cookie Rube Goldberg machine. And he got a little heart cookie and he saw a robot that had scissors for hands that was cutting green onions. And he thought, well, I'll just make a man. So he makes a man, which is insane. And then he gives the man gloves where hands would be. But beyond that, he permanently and intricately attaches 12 to 18-inch long blades in varying directions and of varying uses to all 5 fingers of both hands.
Yes.
So he had hands to start, and those were added on top because through the whole movie, you can see Edward's glove hands doing glove hand things.
I have a theory.
What is this theory?
I don't think the inventor thought that he could make hands because he'd only ever made robots with choppy knives. So I think he was piecing. I mean, when he was reading Edward the story, I think he was just piecing him together slowly as he was trying to make this person because he'd only ever made automatons, basically.
Okay, but you could have just not had the knives and just left him with gloves, and then he would have just been a man.
Or nubs. I said we could have just left him with nubs.
I think that's actually worse than leaving him with scissors. At least with scissors, he can do stuff.
Fair, but then he doesn't become a menace to society. Anyways, this is CityWavesCinema.
Just a 2.5 minute intro.
That's James.
Yeah.
I'm America.
No?
Yes?
Yes.
What?
I don't know.
And this is... We watched Edward Scissorhands. I already said this is CityWavesCinema. You threw off my whole groove.
Threw off my groove.
That's a different movie.
It's a great movie. So, this is a movie about Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. Tim Burton doesn't know any other way. All his movies are Christmas adjacent, and therefore Christmas movies by definition.
Sweeney Todd was not a Christmas movie.
It snows body parts.
Okay.
Christmas.
He
He only knows one way to be.
Corpse Bride, not a Christmas movie.
I haven't seen that one. I can't say for certain. I'm sure I could argue.
James and the Giant Peach, not a Christmas movie.
Is there even snow at all?
No.
Yes, there is. When they go to the North Pole
Okay.
and do that interlude for no fucking reason.
Sleepy Hollow.
It's cold in England. It's for sure Christmas.
It's not even in England.
It's cold in the wherever the fuck they are.
The Northeast.
Transylvania?
No, that's not where Sleepy.
Somewhere else in Europe?
It's not where Sleepy Hollow takes place.
I don't know. The Headless Horseman is mythological in lots of places.
Okay.
Anyways, this is the only Tim Burton movie that's good.
James actually really enjoyed the movie.
Okay, don't stretch to say really.
James enjoyed a Tim Burton movie.
I thought this was a good movie.
For a Tim Burton movie, that's high praise
I have
from you.
never once said another Tim Burton movie is a good movie.
You like Sweeney Todd.
Yes, I like Sweeney Todd. That doesn't make it a good movie.
What about Sleepy Hollow?
Fine.
I'm really upset that your favorite Tim Burton movie is my least favorite Tim Burton movie.
Nightmare Before Christmas is a mediocre movie that has the cult following of a god.
Yeah.
The plot of that movie is
really
dumber than rocks.
Yeah.
The plot to this movie is mostly confusing, but also it's so interesting and refreshing.
It's also
being that the movie's from 1990 to see a movie where conflict does not drive the movie for like an hour, and then it's only conflict, and then the movie's over.
It's also really good social commentary.
Oh yeah, listen. Tim Burton nailed this. Like, he really, really nailed this movie. He really did.
This movie makes me have big feelings.
America's big feelings about this movie are bad. She does not like this movie. She doesn't like anything about this movie. Except maybe that Johnny Depp's in it.
I do like I think the makeup's good. I like everything that's not the story in this movie is excellent. I think the costuming's good. The makeup is phenomenal. The acting is wonderful.
The cast is tremendous.
The world building, the set, everything is great. And then we tell the story, and then I kind of go a little homicidal.
It's towards the end. You did great for the first half.
I did, and then as I started recalling this movie, I just kept getting all the feelings came rushing back, and I was like, oh, I remember why I don't watch this one. I've seen it like 3 times, and every time I'm like, this is why I don't watch this movie. It's why I've only seen, and someday I want to make you watch it, but, I've only ever seen Anger Management 1 time, and that's because it made me need to go to Anger Management. My mom was laughing her ass off, and I was sitting there shaking with rage. I was so angry. So yeah, this movie gives me big feelings.
All right, well, let's get into the weeds.
All right.
So
you're kind of on lead on this one. So
we open to a title sequence reminiscent of the days of cinema gone by in the 1980s.
It's your required Tim Burton.
Where Tim Burton strokes his massive ego.
Yeah, pretty much.
And just jerks it to himself. But he did this before he did all his other great movies. So, that's ego for you right there.
He knew he was a genius.
Genius is only a word I might use to describe Tim Burton if you put mad in front of it, or tormented, or...
Definitely tormented.
Incorrect. Or
no, I think tormented. I think him and Stephen King have like the same kind of like genius where it's just like
no.
Are you okay?
I like Tim Burton's movies well before I would ever turn to a Stephen King movie and go, this is good.
Well, Stephen King also doesn't make his movies. We have to consider
that's true. And Stephen King doesn't even like his movies. He just likes his books, and Stephen King's books are dog shit.
But he's like, money.
True. He is. Anyways,
a paycheck's a paycheck. I mean,
yeah, you're not wrong. We're really off the rails. So,
sorry.
We open on ancient Winona Ryder, who after the first part, I just assumed it was grandma, right? I was like, this is just an old lady. But at the end of the movie, when you really get some good close-ups on the grandmother, I think it's Winona Ryder in makeup. I think it is. And it is some astoundingly good old lady makeup on Winona Ryder.
I've never seen, if it is true and it's not like a voice dub, which we can't find.
I can't find a credited person as a grandmother in the credits, so I am assuming it's Winona Ryder in makeup.
And if so, like, that is the best, like, prosthetic and
it's so good
makeup work I've seen for an old person ever.
Remarkable.
Like,
anyways,
at all.
She is tucking her grandchild into bed. It's snowing outside. We don't know where we are yet. Later we'll find out we're somewhere where there's palm trees. So assume Florida, the coastlines, California, somewhere.
I mean, didn't you look it up and it's an actual
an actual neighborhood in Florida that they just redressed. But yeah, it's they shot it in Florida.
It gives me it always gave me California vibes, but that's how I picture like suburbia in California.
Oh no, it's way more cookie cutter than that atrocity.
I mean, that's cookie cutter in a different way.
It gave me...
You have a color palette you have to prescribe.
It gave me instant Florida vibes. But regardless, the grandmother's tucking in granddaughter and talking about where snow comes from, which is a really weird way to start this movie. And from there, we basically flash back in time to what is it? Where do we go first?
Well, it starts with scissors.
Oh, that's right. Hands?
No.
Not scissor hands. Oh, fuck. I fucked it up. Damn it. It's hand scissors. God damn it.
Not hand scissors.
I'm all distracted and shit. Give me the fucking notes.
Sorry, there was a really
I know there's cute shit on the phone. I'll look at it in a minute.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot my own joke about the intro sequence because I didn't look at my notes.
I kept like looking at your phone, and you were not
just riffing, man. I'm
all right. So
off it.
go through your notes.
The intro sequence is great because I don't understand what the fuck I'm looking at. It's revealed later, but on the intro, it's the cookie machine from the inventor, and it's convoluted and doesn't make any sense. Grandma's a pushover because the kid goes, "No, I'm not tired. Read me the story." And Grandma goes, "All right." But that's Grandma for you. Grandmas are always pushovers. We go to the neighborhood because we have to do the Avon sales walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote the note that just says the neighborhood is aggressively Floridian. Because maybe it's because I did briefly live in Southern California, but I've been to Florida enough to be like, yeah, people here paint their houses god-awful colors. And a neighborhood of the same recurring pastels, that's awful. I hate that with every fiber of my being, which makes it all the better that it's a Tim Burton movie and the neighborhood's full of pastels.
It's very
phenomenal.
It's like I said, the artistic direction of the whole movie and the direct contrast and everything, it's just so well done.
You know, if he had kept on going with this variety of artistic expression and hadn't just done mountains of cocaine, we probably would have better versions of his other movies.
I mean, the only other thing that comes semi-close to this kind of, like, stark contrast moment is, Alice in Wonderland. That first one that he did, because he made sure to make, like, Wonderland, like, big pops color, blindingly bright, all this stuff, and then the human world is just drab as hell, except for Alice, who has a blue dress.
Yep. So first off, Joyce. Wow. What a neglected housewife incarnate.
What a great role to play. She had to have a blast.
I'm sure she had a great time. She got to be crass and vulgar on the set of a relatively interesting movie, and she was the only one. No one else did anything remotely horny in the movie. It was just Joyce. And it was the only character trope.
I think what's interesting too is if you look at every single wife, you get kind of every stereotypical, like, housewife. Like, you get the very neglected, horny housewife. You get the
overly religious housewife.
The like, strung out mom, which is the one with curlers in her hair at the beginning. Like, you get every different level of housewife, which I like. It's variety, but without being, like, having variety. It's such a well done movie. I hate it.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Peg is doing Avon sales door to door because she hasn't figured out it's a pyramid scheme yet. And no one's biting. It's a terrible day in the door to door sales game. So then Peg takes off up towards the menacing mountain, and just the bravest of individuals heads up to the menacing house on the hill that's superimposed.
Gotta get that bread.
It's very Addams Family.
It does give Addams Family vibes.
So she goes on up there and just decides to do a little bit of B&E. You all right?
I have a sneeze that's stuck. Please continue.
All right. You were just making stank face, and I thought it was my opinions that were getting to you, but no, I guess not. So she's doing a little bit of breaking and entering, which is I don't know if that's like a strategy they teach you when you're selling Avon door to door, but I have never once had to deal with an aggressively pasteled housewife trying to get into my house to sell me Avon products. Maybe I don't live in the right neighborhood, but that felt a bit strange. There's also the inventor's house has gone to neglect inside. The outside is very well kept. There's bushes and gardening, basically. That's all done by Edward because he can do that with his hands. So Peg is moving around inside the house, and it's dusty and decrepit and kind of creepy and kind of full of strange fuckery. And she works her way up one of the most insane staircases that ever there was to find a stoved-in roof which is the bedroom of one young Edward Scissorhands. Scissorhands not being his real last name. He doesn't have a last name.
No. Which is sad.
It's yeah. He's also not a man. he's a strange automaton.
More or less. I mean, we don't really know what he's made of, but he bleeds.
He's made of insides, leather, bladed weaponry, and a face. And also hair that can grow. And also blood. It's very confusing. We really yada yada through how we got to this point. We just kick off from this point and don't stop, which helps because I didn't think to ask the question until right now, how did he make Edward? Because that's something in a modern day movie where they would give you time to contemplate as an audience member, and I think that's bad. You shouldn't have time to contemplate that because the story isn't about how did he make Edward. The story's about how everyone's fucking awful to Edward all the time. So
the story's about
how Tim Burton was bullied as a child.
The story's about how humans suck.
The story's about how Tim Burton was bullied as a child. Same thing.
It is that, but
this is also Johnny Depp's first like weird character, and he never goes back to like a normal character. He's just permanently odd. And I'm not complaining.
Listen, it's one of those things where it's like, it's something that I was taught in acting school is like, if you find your niche and you can market that niche,
live in it.
Do it.
Live in it.
That's why Jim Carrey plays a lot of
the same slapstick comedians.
Yep, and Johnny Depp's been weird, and Helena Bonham Carter has been insane. Like,
and Christina Ricci's been creepy.
Yeah, once you find your little niche and you can sell it and market it and you're making money,
carry on.
Go for it.
So we find out that Edward's parent is the inventor and he died. And Edward reveals this fact by saying he didn't wake up, which is a horrible sentence. Just loaded with trauma. He didn't wake up. He says it in his very timid, like, young Johnny Depp voice, which is just, like, very unnerving to hear. It's very scary and sad.
He has, like, the mentality of basically, like, at max like a 4-year-old.
Yeah. The vocabulary of an adult, but the mental capacity of a very young child. So Peg makes the executive decision to bring Edward home and take care of him forever. Which is a decision that was made without 1 ounce of thought or sense.
But it's a very sweet and beautiful decision. Like, she saw this creature that, which he's not technically human, and was like, I'm going to love it no matter what. And more people should be like her.
Absolutely. But then you realize, oh, people aren't like her. People are like the neighborhood bitches.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I refer to them as the HOA of bitches later.
They kind of are. You know, their husbands are all on the HOA.
Their husbands all go golfing to drink. We watch it happen, literally.
I know.
In like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So she's driving back to her house, and she's got Edward in the car, and he doesn't know things like how big his body is or anything.
Windows.
No, he doesn't know windows, doesn't know how long his hands are. Not that he ever really needed to, but he's coming to grips with everything, and honestly, he gets along pretty well, frankly. And the housewives all see through their windows and shit that Peg's got this guy in a car, and they're like, what the fuck is that? I couldn't get a good look at him. I couldn't get a good look at him. I couldn't get a good look at him. And thus, the neighborhood bitch association was born. And I think, honestly, most HOAs in the world were modeled off of this varietal of human. I don't know if I've talked about it on this show before, but I think HOAs are one of the most sinister ways that a company can make money, because they don't do anything. really. I mean, like really. They don't do anything that's actually good or helpful. Oh, but you know what they do pretty well? Stealing. They're very good at stealing. And convincing you, oh, they're like the United States government. They're very good at stealing and convincing you that it's for your benefit. Very good at that. My parents, all in on HOAs because it keeps the value of your house up. Fuck off. Well, don't you want to make sure your neighbors don't leave their car on their lawn?
I have more important things to worry about.
Don't worry about if I can afford groceries next week. Fuck off. I don't give a rat's ass about the fucking neighbors.
I don't know any
I
of
like
our
my neighbors. Shit.
I don't know any of our neighbors. I've never spoken to a single one of them.
I've spoken to at least 3. So, anyways, the neighborhood bitches in this most atrocious neighborhood immediately start the gossip train. And it's just going to be like, that's what they do for the rest of the movie. And anytime you think, oh, they might turn a leaf and not be bitches, they walk that back immediately and revert directly to being bitches. And it's not just because it's a group of mostly women. Just the behavior should be attributed to the word bitch. Front to back. Now, Edward is given a tour of the house, basically, where he is confronted with new and interesting things to him in his life, such as pictures and beds.
Specifically water beds.
And phones and also clothes. And he does, honestly, a pretty good job handling most everything, except the waterbed, which he pokes a hole in. And that will not be addressed ever again. Until it's addressed again later.
It won't be ever addressed again until it is.
The first instance of him poking a hole in the waterbed is not addressed at all. And isn't addressed ever again. He does poke holes in the waterbed again later. For a different reason.
I don't know why we thought we should have put him on the couch downstairs to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know why we thought putting the guy with giant knives for hands that clearly has issues like controlling them based on his face, in a bed that explodes.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, but Peg doesn't do anything in the movie that makes sense. She acts purely on emotion, and that's admirable in some cases and very dumb in others. So finally, he manages to get dressed in some clothes, almost all the way. He takes great effort not to cut anything and then accidentally cuts the suspenders, which we hold together with safety pins for the rest of the movie, because that's a very Tim Burton-y look.
I also like that we only gave him one outfit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not like he gets it dirty ever.
That just slowly, like, degrades over time, which is a really cool...
That's
Again,
smart.
it's a cool film choice.
So, then Alan Arkin comes home. He's the dad. What's his name?
Jim, because it's Jim and
Kim.
Kim.
No. Jim is the boyfriend. Jim's the boyfriend who's a douchebag. It's their last name is Boggs. It's something else that starts with a B.
I'll look it up. Maybe it's Bob.
It might be Bob. So the husband comes home and so does the son, and they're all just sort of hanging out and not addressing the elephant that is Edward in the room. And all credit to the father figure here. He just treats Edward like a person, which is like better than anyone else will do for the rest of the movie. No one else treats him like a person. People commodify him immediately. It's disgusting, honestly.
Bill
Boggs. That's right. It's Bill. Bill and Peg. That's correct.
Yes.
So, he's just trying to have a conversation with him, and Edward's having a hard time eating. And something that is not really talked about in my brain, because I don't ever read fucking media about this movie. It's 30 plus years old. Is Johnny Depp puts on such a performance in terms of his physical acting. Because Edward doesn't really have dialogue. He doesn't really talk all that much. I think he has like maybe 50 lines in the whole movie. And Johnny Depp spends the majority of his screen time emoting with his body language, and he does a really, really good job. It is just a really, really good performance. So there's that for you. When he's not talking, which is most of the time, you still know what's up with him. Hard thing to do. Actors nowadays have a really hard time doing that.
It's also amazing because a lot of the time he has, like, which was probably a choice by Tim Burton and Johnny, like this like wide-eyed stare, like he doesn't blink a lot and his eyes are constantly like meh. So but to still get that amount of like expression and emotion without huge amounts of like emoting is it's well done. It's
You
so
know who
good.
else should get credit for that?
Who?
Danny Elfman. A movie's moments are nothing without a score.
That's true. The Danny Elfman's also a genius, which I already talked about tonight with you, but not on podcast. But we all know my feelings about Danny Elfman from previous Timber. I love Danny Elfman. Carry on.
So we moved to the backyard the following morning. Bill's trip. Oh, I forgot how to words. Bill is trimming his hedges. Son Kevin is up in the treehouse listening to a baseball game on the radio. And Edward finds another hedge and begins trimming it with his hands, resulting in a dinosaur, because what he knows is art and making tree hedges into art.
I mean, in another direct comparison to Tim Burton himself, like he's an artist. Like that's his whole shtick, is he's just a misunderstood artist.
It's a movie about Tim Burton, if we're being honest. And Edward's just so very proud of his dinosaur, and Bill's like, "Well, goddamn, look at that! That's pretty sweet there, Ed." And everyone's just so nice all the time, and I talked about it a little already, but it's just such a good change of pace to see a movie where the framework isn't exactly the same as every other movie. You don't get a conflict in the movie until more than halfway through. And if you were to sit down and really objectively like parse through movies that you've watched in recent history, anything from like 2010 on is like the movie starts, you meet everyone that's going to be in it, and then there's a conflict so the plot can progress. And then there's another conflict near the end of the movie, and then that's all resolved and the movie's over. That's your generic framework for the movie. And it's fine. That's a fine story structure. But when you tell it every movie, it gets really fucking boring. And this movie simply does not. This movie starts, you meet the characters who are going to be in it, and then you step on the gas with the characters and do not run into a speed bump. You just go. You cruise. You have a nice time. And you're a little paranoid the whole time that something's going to go wrong, and yet nothing does. And it's honestly really nice. And you see around the edges little stuff that might come into play later, and it's like, oh, this could turn out bad for us. I mean, every time you interact with Jim the boyfriend, Anthony Michael Hall's bully role, or Joyce the whore, or really any of the housewives. But if you think about it, they're like this from the beginning of the movie, but the housewives really feel more like a nuisance than they do antagonists until they become antagonists. And that doesn't happen for quite some time. So it's just a very fun movie structure to have where the plot happens with no conflict to kick it off.
It really does like subvert expectations, because you would think the end of the movie, how people react to Edward, would be the entire movie.
Right.
You think it would be this overcoming of stereotypes and showing that he's just a person and him having to like overcome that, but instead everyone just accepts him like
Immediately.
instantly with little to no questions.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe there's some world building that never made it into the final cut of the movie where they like the whole neighborhood is in on the understanding that, oh, we don't go near the weird inventor's house, and they just like know that that's a thing. But that's never noted. It's never stated. And honestly, I really enjoyed the fact that there just wasn't any out the gate conflict. We just watch so many movies nowadays where inside your first 30 minutes, the first major plot point gets fulfilled via a question or a conflict that asks a question. And in this movie, you don't. The plot is kicked off by just committing to a bit and not stopping. Oh, we're just going to be friendly and accepting. And the family does not stop doing that the whole time. Even when it gets hard, they don't stop doing that. It's really remarkable, honestly. Tim Burton does a really good job. I'm telling you, this is the best Tim Burton movie that I've seen. I haven't seen Corpse Bride yet. I could be, or Frankenweenie. That's his, right? I could be proven wrong about either of those movies, but I doubt. I'm not saying I like Tim Burton. This is just the best of his works. The neighbors invite themselves over for a barbecue to meet the strange man that they have observed in and around the house. It's been 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's fucking rude.
Yeah.
A concept that you would not have been able to easily explain to 10-year-old James is that inviting yourself to someone's house is frowned upon and should not be done. I didn't have social graces when I was 10.
It's also very much like a different time and a
Yeah,
different culture. Like
yeah.
now that would not I can't go to someone's house without like having several confirmation texts like that this is the time, this is the day. Are you home right now? Like, am I good to come over?
We're at the point in culture where we don't go up to people's doors to let them know we're at their house. We text people when we're there.
Yeah.
Except our friends who came over last night, who just walked to the front door, looked into the front door window, and said, "Hi, let me in."
Is that what happened?
That's what Monica did last night. She said, "I want to see your dog." We love him. Anyways, they just maintain this air of being nosy monsters, and Peg does nothing really to dissuade them. But also doesn't really cave to them ever again beyond this moment. Pardon me. We just have a barbecue, and everyone sort of gets along great with Ed. They're all like appreciative of his existence. They don't judge him too harshly.
They're making like jokes here and there, but they're
jokes that like people who have been around people would understand.
They're also like laugh with you jokes, not like at you jokes. Like they're like, "Hey, you want to come to our card game? You just can't cut." Like it's like just normal human interactions.
Yeah,
Except Joyce.
The neighborhood humans are pretty consistently just doofuses. I did also breeze past the moment where Esmeralda, which is the credited name of the hyper-religious wife, literally rolls into the backyard after Edward is done trimming a tree and calls him basically the spawn of Satan. And honestly, this is a step back for the movie in terms of movie, because it's out of place. It doesn't track, and it's weird. However, understanding that this movie is an allegory for one young Timothy Burton, it so makes sense that there would be one hopped up psycho religious person who's like, oh, that guy's the devil. Because Tim's weird. And Edward's weird. And they're wrong, obviously. But, ooh, is it on the nose?
I also like that she herself is a bit of an outcast from the other.
Yeah, they very specifically. Peg doesn't go to her house to sell her Avon. No one else talks to her. No one else calls her. She's definitely an outcast in the neighborhood, but ostracized because she's crazy.
It's like two sides of the same coin, like her and Edward, but like
Edward's a child.
Yes.
So that's. I only say it takes a step back in terms of a movie because you have a really strong rhythm and a consistent theme going in the movie. And every time the hyper religious zealot is on screen, it fucks up that rhythm. It's very jarring. It doesn't translate the same as everything else. And I don't think it should not be in the movie, but it doesn't read the same as everything else. And so it makes it a little difficult to just let it happen. Every time you see it, you're like, oh. It's like every time Jim's on screen. And I would just reactionarily say, this fucking guy. Wait, that's a real thing that happened. Every time Jim was on screen, I just went, nah, this fucking guy. Every time. We're at the barbecue. They force feed the man, which feels very reminiscent. It's not reminiscent because this movie came out first, but it feels very akin to the scene in Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Stole Christmas.
I was thinking
where they're
that.
like force feeding the fucking Grinch all the puddings and shit.
Edward handles it much better.
Yeah, he does.
He's just like, yeah, this is good. This is delicious. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And then we finally get a little flashback to Vincent Price's inventor doing his little cookie machine and doing some acting on screen and showcasing how he's going to make a man. And while Vincent Price was very sick when they were filming this movie,
I just read how sick he was.
He was so sick. He was like dying. He was like actively dying.
Yeah, his scenes were supposed to be more, but he was so ill they cut some of his stuff
so that he didn't have to like suffer.
Yeah, but like Johnny Depp really he wrote the role for him, or not Johnny Depp, Tim Burton. Tim Burton wrote the role for Vincent Price, and so it was like his role to play. And it's like when I found out Maggie Smith did all of like Deathly Hallows while she was doing chemo and breast cancer, and I was just like, damn.
A bad motherfucker.
Damn.
Yeah, Vincent Price puts on a really good sort of like means well but is kind of dumb inventor, and it's really pleasant. He also doesn't have very many lines of dialogue, but he puts on a show.
His cookie machine upsets me.
Yeah, it's not right.
It's really cool. It's one of those like in a movie, I said this when we were watching it, but in a movie that pays like such attention to detail, and there was so much care and effort taken into like every single little corner, the cookie machine, none of those cookies would come out like that.
No.
The cookie cutters were going on top of each other, and they weren't even on the dough sometimes, and the dough wasn't rolled out, and it was a heh.
Listen, in terms of the things that are wrong with this movie, that is certainly one, but it is of almost no consequence.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter, but every time I watch that scene, it's just like, my brain twitches, because it's just like, it's not right. It wouldn't, nope, that cookie cutter went on top of the first cookie, it's fine.
So, have we established exactly why Joyce is so goddamn horny all the time? We assume it's that her husband just doesn't fuck her.
But I mean, the only thing that we get is that first line at the beginning where she's like,
imagine what those hands could do.
No, it's when she's talking to the repair guy.
Oh yeah, and she's trying to fuck him.
And she's like, it's a lonely life being a housewife. You'd know that, but they don't make commercials about that, because they make commercials about how hard like
handyman work.
Yeah, and how lonely handyman's work is, but they don't do that about housewives, so how would you know? So that's the only
God.
hint that we get, is that basically Joyce just has too much goddamn time on her hands and is not getting laid nearly enough. And even if her husband did give her some, I don't think she wants it from him.
A nice time. Yeah.
So,
They do a good job in this movie on the second cutaway where he's reading like books of ethics and how to behave in social situations, as well as poetry to Edward. They do a really good job of the concept of the created man. And like, it's a take on Frankenstein, but if things didn't go bad. I mean, kind of. Imagine if...
I'm just saying the things didn't go bad.
Oh, this goes bad, but it's not at the hands of the inventor or
Igor.
That
is true. It's not...
Things go bad because the motherfucker dies.
Yeah.
Listen, Edward, would have been a fully functioning, completely coherent and useful member of society had the inventor A, not died immediately upon showing Edward hands, and B, had the inventor lived long enough to do a couple more lessons, Edward would have basically been a socialized person. He would have just been a guy.
Or if the inventor had maybe just given him hands to begin with.
Yeah, that might have also helped. But like, the fault in Edward is not anyone fucking it up intentionally.
That is true.
Or making a silly mistake. It's literally the cost of time that causes Edward to be like this. So they do a really good job on the concept of a created man, and I like it. It's good. And then the youths get home from their camping trip. And
I hate teenagers.
America's so fucking old. America's an old person right now.
No.
Actively.
No, I'm not. And you want to know why? Because I've never fucking liked teenagers. I didn't like teenagers when I was one. I didn't like them when I was younger than them. I didn't like them when I was in college. I don't fucking like them now. Teenagers fucking suck. They're assholes. They're rude. They have too many fucking hormones to make their brains function properly. And I'm realizing that a lot of this is coming is because I was due to my spicy brain and also being a very early bloomer. I was just developmentally more mature than teenagers, even when I was one. And I am realizing things about myself now, and I'm going to be really quiet. I hate teenagers. They suck. They're dumb. They make stupid choices. They are bad. Okay.
Not to alienate anyone in the audience, but America has a bit of a distaste for people who aren't quite all the way there developmentally.
No, I don't. Okay, okay. Here's the thing.
Teenagers aren't done yet. They're not done cooking. All teenagers make the same mistakes.
Yeah, but it's not all people that are developmentally not done cooking.
No, but you were very specifically referring to they make dumb choices.
Yes.
Because they're not done cooking.
But middle schoolers are fine. I like middle schoolers.
They haven't started cooking. Listen, the hormones kick in, 10, 11 years old, that's when the cooking starts. And it doesn't stop until 28.
So the cooking starts when they're in middle school.
Oh, fuck. I don't know how kids work.
You should figure that out soon.
I'm working on it, all right? Let's talk about the fucking movie and not your vehement hatred of not real teenagers.
It was on topic! The youths showed up and then everything went to shit!
It's only one youth's fault.
Kim is not completely
Kim's a big
innocent
baby.
here.
Kim's a big baby. She's just a big baby. Jim's a dick.
And Jim's friend is also not completely innocent here. He almost killed a child.
Yeah, but he also got threatened to drive drunk. He didn't want to. He said, no, I don't want to do this. And then his friend was like, I'll fucking kill you. Jim is the bad guy. The housewives are nuisancey. And also the main antagonist. Jim is the fucking bad guy. And he's like 24.
How old?
Winona Ryder looks like a teenager. Anthony Michael Hall looks like a man.
Aren't they supposed to be like 16?
Uh-huh. This is the beginning of the time when we start using adults as children on a permanent basis.
I don't think it was the beginning of the time, because Judy Garland is supposed to play a child in Wizard of Oz.
Judy Garland looks like a child.
She looks like a lady, and she's supposed to play like a 10-year-old. Like Dorothy Gale.
Oh, it's been a long time since I watched The Wizard of Oz. I don't know if I can refute you on that.
Dorothy Gale is like supposed to be like a literal child, not like a teenager. Not
Really?
Like, yeah.
I thought she was supposed to be like 16.
No, she is like
shit.
a literal child. And you want it makes even more sense because originally they wanted Shirley Temple to play Dorothy.
That would have made more sense.
And if you read the book or if you see any other adaptation,
Yeah, but then Shirley Temple would have died of asbestos.
probably. Any other adaptation of Wizard of Oz, like that weird trippy one that's from like the 90s where it's Return to Oz or whatever. She's an actual child there. She's supposed to be like a literal like 10-year-old.
All right, so the youths get back in their flame van. And we immediately get a big ol' heaping helping mouthful of what a fucking dick Jim is. As he's very like manhandly with Kim and is just being an all-around douchebag. And America pointed this out while we were watching it, and I saw it, but I didn't really care much at the time. The more I thought about it, though, the more I was like, oh, that's good acting by Anthony Michael Hall. He looks at her like she is meat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is prey. Ooh. Great acting. Good direction. Great acting. It would appear that this series of calamities that are about to occur in the movie are directly because the parents, Peg and Bill, do not properly execute a return home from the camping trip. There is also not really a clear time when they were supposed to get back from the camping trip, so maybe they could be forgiven for it. But Kim comes home, goes to her room, which is where they've been keeping Edward. They give him the bed in there. It's all fine. And Edward's just awake in there because he doesn't really sleep as far as I can tell. And he's just laying there awake. And she comes in and, like, takes off outer clothes. And she's in, like, a t-shirt. And is, like, checking her face in the mirror and all that. And sees Edward in the reflection in her bed. And freaks out, which, you know... Understandably. And then he freaks out and pokes a million holes in the waterbed.
Again, all understandable.
Yeah, it's all tracking, right? And she's screaming, and then the whole family's awake, and it's all this calamity, and Bill fucking grabs Edward and is like, just come on. You just don't worry about that. You just come on. And the parents, they do a really great job tag teaming the situation.
I will say, in my opinion, they're some of like the best parents I've ever seen on screen. Like, they're just genuinely good parents.
They also kind of like each other too.
Yeah.
Which is like a marvel. You know how many dads in 90s and early 2000s cinema are just colossal fuck-ups? And then you have Bill Boggs, who is just sort of great.
I wouldn't go great. I'd say they're good parents.
He's acceptable. He doesn't do anything he doesn't do anything wrong. He's not stupid. He doesn't make any stupid mistakes.
He fully takes in Edward and takes care of them. Like,
his wife makes an executive decision and he's like, okay, we'll do this now. It's fine. He's a great guy. Okay, great's a stretch. He's good. He's good.
He's a good guy.
And he takes him downstairs, and we'll probably wrap about halfway here because things really kick off after this. He takes him downstairs, and he's talking about the horrors of raising a teenage girl like he's a fucking combat veteran in the Vietnamese war on hormones.
They get glands.
And man, oh man, it's just so funny to watch Alan Arkin literally just like have flashbacks to the war. And he's just like, and he pours a whiskey for him and for Edward, and then he gets Edward a straw, and Edward's sucking down whiskey with the straw, and
Which the dad refers to as lemonade.
Yes, he specifically calls it lemonade. And Edward just goes.
To be fair, that's what I do when I drink whiskey straight, so...
And Bill goes, it's good, isn't it? Because that's a dad thing to say. And then they both get fucked up off of what we see to be one glass of whiskey.
I have a feeling there was more.
Oh, probably.
There wasn't a lot of time.
There was not a lot of time.
But they... Yeah, because the dad's over there like...
Oh, yeah, he's just completely zonked. And so the mom brings down Kim to meet Edward officially, and they have a little introduction, and Edward's just like, he has red eyes, and he's just like, and he falls over. And Bill's just sat there, face in one hand, unmoving for the entire interaction. It's really good comedy. It's just really good comedy. I'm so pleasantly surprised at how good this movie was for me in a world where also James and the Giant Peach exists. And that was fucked up front to back. And in no way comparable to this movie. The only reason they could be comparable is because the director's the same. But I think the director...
And the
score's kind of the same. You can't parallel James and the Giant Peach, the nightmare on film, to this movie, which is fine. It's an astounding array of work, where on the one hand, you have a perfectly palatable Edward Scissorhands movie, and on the other hand, you have a deranged drug binge through animation. And you know what it is? It's the stop motion movies. It's Tim Burton's obsession with stop motion that fucks it all up for me.
Where do you put Beetlejuice in that?
Beetlejuice is bad because it's perverts.
So is it closer to the...
Beetlejuice is rapey.
Is it closer to James and the Giant Peach?
Yes, it is closer to James and the Giant Peach. And you know what? There's also that horrifying animation stop motion sequence with the sandworm in Beetlejuice. There is a direct one-to-one correlation between movies that Tim Burton does in real life and movies Tim Burton does in claymation, and the ones in claymation is all fucked up in all kinds of ways.
There you have it.
Done and dusted. Moving on. Second half.
Alrighty.
Your plan did backfire. I did enjoy this movie. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, he like...
I had a nice time.
He legitimately had like a smile on his face for like most of the movie.
I laughed more than once. It's incredible.
Alrighty. I'm digging it out. Give me
I need to look at the cute. Hold on.
Oh yeah, the cute's really great. We're teaching...
Oh, he looking at me! Ow! He remembers I'm the one who makes him shit.
If Dean poops during this recording, I'll literally die. I need water. Please hold. Oh god, okay.
Sorry, I nearly killed you.
You really did. I'm sorry, I'm coughing into the mic, but I'm trying to type the poll. Okay. Oh. That was funny. Okay. Our friend who is watching the podcast has a baby that is watching the podcast, and we got a picture of it. And that's what that was. Holy shit. I cannot breathe. Did he make him cry just now? 'Cause that's sad. Was it because he was loud? Was James too loud? I know the child is not fond of loud noises, or fond of loud noises. Alright. Another Tim Burton is on the docket. Not on purpose. I'm literally just going down a list at this point because I got organized. It took me over a year of this podcast, but I finally fucking got organized and we have like a list of movies. And ones that you guys recommend go on this list too. So, like I have Powder, which Green Gorilla recommended. So, and I will forever call you Green Gorilla. I will never change it to the other name. All right. There's your vote. I'm going to go try to I suck and I didn't put the be right back screen up. I am not shocked at all. Not even a little bit. Alrighty. Okay. Alrighty. I mean, there's no more Tim Burtons on this list after that, so
Oh, Corpse Bride?
yeah.
Alright.
This one he will definitely not like, because it is stop motion. It's one of my favorites. I fucking love Corpse Bride. Ugh.
Look at this. Look at that.
Aww.
Look at that. Look at how cute.
He seems perfectly happy now.
Yeah, it's because his dad's like sniffing his head. Oh, there's another one.
We've seen the Batmans. We unfortunately can't do ones that we've already seen. So Batman, Sweeney Todd, Sleepy Hollow. Those are all not gonna be podcasted.
I cannot. Looks like he's doing tremendous after having his head.
Oh, I didn't even save. Wow, I'm just not. You killed me, and I didn't
I'm
do.
sorry, I didn't mean to kill you.
I didn't do anything I was supposed to. Part 1. Eve. Right in the broveries is what chat says.
Dude, I'm feeling it.
You're gonna have one.
I don't have to worry about it though. I'm gonna have one of those little children's later this year. So
I said one of those things. You said one of those children's. We're doing great. We're ready. Can you tell?
all the fucking weapons, I have to put those somewhere else.
Out of reach.
There's so many sharp pointies that are low to the ground. Baby proofing of this house is going to be an effort.
This room is just probably going to be off limits a lot of the time, is what I decided, because there's no baby proofing in here. It's just...
The Batman movie's a Christmas movie.
What? Dark Shadows is also not on...
Tim Burton's Batman is a Christmas movie.
I've seen Dark Shadows. Have you seen Dark Shadows? That's the vampire Johnny Depp one.
I don't think so.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna have to watch that piece of shit again. Or I lied. That might be my least favorite. Is that Tim Burton?
Yeah, and it's the nipples one.
I know it's got Helena. Dark Shadows is the vampire one, right? It's got Helena.
Dark Shadows.
It's got Helena in it. It's got Johnny Depp and it didn't like it. I like Edward Scissorhands more. At least that makes me feel things.
Big things. Big things.
It makes me feel big things, but not in the same way that fucking Dark Shadows does. It's on the list now. It'll be a while because it's at the bottom of the list, but it's on the list. Alright. Oh yeah?
Can I help you? I have to do a show.
Do you need me to get babysitter?
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
I can go get babysitter really quickly. Entertain the people, James.
Should I like sing and dance or something? Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my hometown girl.
Take it. Okay. That was pathetic. Alrighty. He is
I
thoroughly...
sang, I didn't dance, I'm sorry.
Okay. Check something. I also looked it up and it is based off Tim Burton's hometown of Burbank, California. So we're both right.
So it's based on California, but it's definitely Florida.
Yeah, it's in Florida, but it's based in California. And the neighbors are all based off the other writers' neighbors in her neighborhood she grew up in.
Damn. Get called out.
Like in an interview she said, yeah, those are all the neighbors I grew up with. And I was like, oh, okay. Apparently we don't talk to any of those people anymore.
No, definitely not.
That writer said, I don't give a single flying fuck. Yeah, I was in the trivia. Also, Dorothy, canonically, 8. Oh, you
8 years old?
Yep.
Ooh.
And later ones, like, because there are multiple Oz books, it's like 8 to 12. So the oldest she ever is like 12.
All right, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
I got summoned after the show, so.
By who?
By the goons.
No. Not allowed.
Hey, I told them no so that we could hang out yesterday.
That wasn't for that was different.
No?
Yes. That was for selfish reasons.
Were you not also with me?
I was, but there's a difference between the things.
Are you just gonna like dance around it or say what we were doing when we hung out?
Anyways.
Your ears are really red. Like your shirt and your Kinky Bears earrings.
They are my Kinky Bear earrings. They got little blindfolds on. My friend got them for me in college.
Remember when we did 50 Shades of Grey?
That's why she got them for me.
Yeah. Miss Twilight.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because you went to real people school.
Mm-hmm.
Can you bring a man to show and tell?
Yes and no.
You can't bring a man?
You can and you can't. It depends on what show and tell and what school. Cause like, it just depends. You gonna be okay, or are you gonna lose your shit over chat over there?
I'm gonna poop my pants.
Okay.
All right. So, welcome to episode 2 of Edward Scissorhands, the CityWavesCinema. That's America. I'm James. Edward goes to school with Kevin.
Fastest intro ever.
I was fastest intro in the West. Edward goes to school and just does a show and tell sequence, and it's almost jarring, but it happens so fast that you don't have time to be like, oh, this doesn't fit. It just works.
They also
which is wild.
Clearly like rehearsed it, because like he did little like motions every time like Kevin said something, and like
Yep.
They practiced.
It is a fun little sequence. And then we have a little awkward interaction after school where Edward just like shouts at Jim and Kim briefly, and I don't remember what for, but it was like, meh. It didn't really have much impact on it other than to give an interaction between Kim and Edward. And Jim sucks. And then now we begin the sequence of, oh, Edward has like a job now. And we've seen him basically trimming everyone's hedges to be these fun shapes and things. They're kind of taking advantage of him in that way. Would you settle down?
It's not sorry, in the conversation I'm existing in over in our chat world while this is recording, trimming someone's hedges just sounded like a euphemism to me, and it's fine.
Edward gets molested in this movie.
I know! It's an awful movie!
So, Edward's been doing everyone's hedges and shit, and he's like just really getting in there, you know?
Stop it!
No.
You're doing it on purpose now!
Of course I am. Why wouldn't I? And now people start bringing their dogs to him because he randomly, like, cuts a dog's hair, basically.
Yeah, he sees a fluffy dog while he's, like, making this hedgework art, and he's just like, same.
This skill translates.
Same, but different.
And so now, like, the neighborhood HOA committee of bitches brings around their dogs. And Joyce, in one of the most egregious things I've ever seen with my eyes,
has, like, an orgasm.
She I'm gonna go into all the excruciating detail
Oh,
because it's too funny not to. She brings her dog to get the dog's haircut, and it's the only bad haircut he does until he starts doing it to people. Because the dogs all look great.
Artistic haircuts.
Yes, he does artistic haircuts, and the mysticism of getting one of Edward's haircuts very clearly runs pervasive through the neighborhood. But the haircut he does to this dog is it's truly bad.
It looks like a lion.
It's so bad. And Joyce, who's clearly neglected, is just so damn desperate to get this maybe a man, maybe not dick. We don't even know if he's anatomically built correct. He could be built different. Maybe he's got other appendages. We don't know. All right? He wears leather underneath his clothes.
All I'm saying is the inventor didn't give him hands, so I don't think that the inventor would give him
One
a
of my notes
penis.
later does say, does Edward have a penis? Because I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm going to assume no, because he's just sort of like leather.
You can see his whole body.
In fact, there is a sequence at one point. It's when Vincent Price is reading him poetry and stuff, where Edward is a torso,
Yeah, his legs
and
are.
his legs are not attached to him, and his legs are in the leather already.
Yeah, his.
So it's a completely fair and safe assumption that when he is found in the rooftop, he is quote unquote naked because he's just in that leather permanently. That's just what he was born in, basically.
That's his body.
That's his body. So Joyce being this horned up for him is that much fucking funnier because he's not there. Like, he's not gonna show up for you.
He's not built for it, and then mentally, again, he has the mentality
He
of
is
like
a
a
child.
4-year-old. So, like, this is wrong in many ways.
It gets dark. So she asks him after this terrible dog haircut, have you ever done a person's hair? Would you do mine? And he goes,
He was like, same, but different again, and just was like, sure.
Right. So she sits down in this lawn chair and closes her eyes and goes to her special place while blades whir around her head. And you see her, she like lifts her legs and she grips the chair, and you get a Quentin Tarantino special of a close-up on MILF feet as the manicured toes just curl. It's pedicured. My mistake.
Glad you fixed that during
I
this.
caught it, but it took me a second. And she gets a toe curler in her sandals, and it's just like, oh. And then the haircut's done, and she says, that's the most intense thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I was like, good God. He's just there, man. You gotta chill out. Just go get a book of smut or something and do yourself over there. Jesus Christ. It's upsetting, and it's almost funnier that none of the other housewives have this reaction, which just tells you that all the other housewives are getting it.
I mean, they've all gotten it at least once. There's children in the neighborhood.
There are children in the neighborhood. And from then on, we get a little montage of all the many, many haircuts that he
get
doles out.
progressively weirder.
They are unhinged, Martha May Whovier ass haircuts.
Who hair looks better?
It's like if Tim Burton got a hold of Dr. Seuss hairstyles. That's what it is. That's just all it is, really. There's a 1-to-1 parallel. And then there's a interesting moment where he goes out on an adventure with a random housewife from the neighborhood to get his knife hands sharpened. which we don't actually see happen. It's an excuse for him to have a slow motion shot where he sees Winona Ryder's abdomen.
She does have a crop sweater.
Because she's in a cropped sweater. And they really like punch up this is a high school senior, you should have a boner. Just really punching it in there for the audience. Edward can't. He's just like, pretty.
And again, we don't know how like old anatomically or mentally Edward really is. So yeah, it's kind of like a very innocent love for him. He's just like, I really care about this person and I like her and she's pretty.
At the time of filming, Winona Ryder was 20 or 21.
And Johnny Depp was 27, we found out.
Not all that upsetting in terms of age gap wise, but they really like, they punch up the sex for Joyce, and it's like a knowing cringe punch up. And then they also do it more subtly for Kim. I mean, way more subtly. But at the same time, it's like, oh, this is your rom-com moment, isn't it? But it's not really a comedy. It's more like an entertainment experience.
I also apologize if you can hear chewing sounds in the background of this recording. Our dog has a bone, and it's very loud.
At this point in my notes, I made a point to point out, that we have not to this moment in the movie had conflict, and I was waiting for some. And so it came a knocking. And the conflict is Joyce molesting him.
Are you gonna skip over like the whole TV interview?
I did because I didn't have notes about it.
Okay, carry on.
I mean, it was just it's a. Although there was a moment we watched a little review of the movie afterwards, just for funsies, and a moment was pointed out. He gets to go on TV because he's this like freak of nature, and he goes on TV to sort of just be on TV. It's like a spectacle, fielding questions from the audience, and one question is there a special girl for you? And it's very clearly the first time he's ever even considered the fact that there could be or would be or should be or is. The film itself, in a moment of walking back all the praise I had for it, starts a budding romance for no reason, out of nowhere, and does not develop it at all in favor of letting him get molested by Joyce and also have a run-in with the police. Where you could have gotten away with making the back half of your movie a little rom-com-y type deal, instead, we have to be locked in the Tim Burton box of fucked up shit in your movie.
Humanity sucks.
And I'm not saying it's wrong to do this.
It's a social commentary. I mean, it had to happen.
I like all the sequences of the movie in the way they happen, but we tease the idea of this rom-com relationship forming, and we get a teaser and a payoff, and there's nothing in between.
Because it's not a rom-com, it's a tragedy.
It's getting a sandwich with nothing in it. It's eating 2 pieces of toast without butter. It's a waste of a plot line because there's no meat to your sandwich. They could have done a relationship between Kim and Edward. They could have. You have the opportunity. It's an hour 40 runtime. You have the time to do one. But instead of that, we continue to have sequences, and I'm not saying it's wrong to do this. We continue to have sequences of humanity affecting Edward in the negative, which is what the movie's about. And I don't think that's bad. I think that's good. I think it's bad to introduce the romance at all because you can't do all the things you wanted to do. you have to shortchange one. And they opted to shortchange the romance option in favor of the more effective storytelling. And I think that's fine, but why not just cut the romance angle at all? Because you don't do enough to make it feel valid or sensible.
Well, how would you have the rest of the story happen, though? Because then Kim is the one that, like, saves him. She's the one that's telling the story. Like, you have all...
She can do all those things in a non-romantic way.
Like, in a platonic way?
Yeah.
Just in a really...
Because there's no... The whole relationship we're shown of Edward and Kim being together in any way is just the most platonic. Until it isn't. And it doesn't make sense. They don't conversate. She swoons over an odd individual. Mostly because her boyfriend's a giant douche. It doesn't play. It doesn't play out in a sensible way that, like, checks out with, oh yeah, this is the way humans behave. In a movie where humans are explicitly behaving in ways that humans behave.
True.
In a movie about the social commentary on people fucking suck, you have a character who decidedly does not, along with the rest of her family. Kim doesn't suck. She's mediocre.
Yeah,
she's lukewarm.
She's not as good as the rest of her family.
Right.
She has moments of suck, though.
She sure she does. She really doesn't do all that much to try to get Jim to go back to save him when it counts.
She also let the whole thing fucking happen in the
she
first
doesn't
place.
fight the plan for the robbery, but she does come through in the end to redeem her shortcomings a little bit, and I think that's fine. You can have your little character redemption arc, but what relationship have you built up to the point that you get to the top of Edward's house with him and go, I love you? When? When did you? You've been negative to him at best till right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I don't like it. In a movie where almost everything else pretty much does make sense, this doesn't. It's odd. It's the only negative part about the movie for me, really, because the rest is just very clearly commentary. And I think that's great. But this sucks.
I think the only reason I could come up with to give it is to show that he has a heart. Because that was like a big thing, was he had a brain, a heart, and everything except hands. And that might be the only thing I could give for it. But you're right that you could show that in a platonic way, too. Like, I mean, he saves Kevin.
He saves Kevin. He so clearly has heart in a dozen other instances that doing a romance just shortchanges Winona Ryder's character and it shortchanges his character. I think it's a much more emotionally pivotal moment at the end of the movie if she isn't swooning for him. Like, if she's just like, you are part of my family now. And it's sort of like a feel-good, you're accepted into the family moment, rather than a, oh, I want to bang you.
I don't even think it's that kind of love.
Well, yeah,
I think it
isn't, because we already deal with that.
I think it's more of a romantic love.
But at the same time, it's like, how did you, it's not even really about Edward. It's how did you.
They set up his stuff a lot more than they set up her stuff.
Yeah, they really sort of shortchanged Winona Ryder here. How did you get these feelings? He was carving ice and you danced? Is that it?
The snow.
Like,
she fell in love with the snow.
Listen, snow's great. Snow's not a reason to start a romance with someone. It's just not.
I mean, I can think of stupider romances.
I can think of many stupider romances. Snow's still not a reason to start one. Anyways, let's go back to the molestation. In a sequence that I did not ask for, but I got, Joyce is the second housewife to take Edward on a random errand that is decidedly not random. She gets him from wherever
It starts off
and
good.
takes him to her new salon that she's opening, which is fine. Shows him all the stuff. He's sort of seeing it.
He's gonna be
copying
the
her. He's gonna be
the
there.
hair cutter.
Yeah, it's all fine and dandy. And then she takes him to the back room, and you go, "Uh-oh." And then she like puts him in a chair, and you go, "Oh no, not in my nice movie." And then she puts a striptease together, and you go, "Oh man." And then she commits to the bit and climbs aboard the Edward train. Not that there's much there to begin with, but boy does she sell it. And overbalances the chair and it falls over, and he panics and runs away, and from then on the movie descends into chaos.
Well, she got rejected, and
She got rejected, but also I don't know if she was ever gonna find what she was looking for.
a scorned woman though, and she's the one that starts turning
She turns
all the
whole neighborhood
housewives against him. So
this whole interaction happens, and Edward very innocently relays this to the family. And here's a downtrodden moment for Peg, because Peg and Kim both pick up on what he was putting down. Not like he sugarcoats it at all. He just says what happened. Bill doesn't even register it. Kevin hears it. Bill is talking about some other shit. Peg and Kim both hear it and don't say a word. And Kevin's like, "I would like to know more about your afternoon, Ed."
but
What the fuck?
like Peg and Kim exchange like horrified glances because they know Joyce, so they're like, "Oh
Right.
shit."
They know that something's gone down, and they will not address it for the remainder of the movie,
Yep.
which is bad. So then we go home, and we have Jim and Kim planning a robbery. As we have established earlier in conversation, Jim's dad is quite wealthy and owns a bunch of the best electronics, which he keeps in a room that he keeps locked and keeps very, very, very safe. And the only way that Jim is going to get his new bang van with a mattress in the back so he can get laid with Winona Ryder
He says all of this.
is for him to steal all of his dad's electronics and sell them to get a bang van. Now, I'll give him one moment in that there are a lot of lengths one would go to get a bang van specifically so that Winona Ryder would sleep with you in the bang van from 1990.
They already went to the mountains. They are clearly sleeping together. They also went to the room
but
and was like,
the whole point is to have a van so that they can do that themselves in a place where they won't get caught. That's the whole point of it. If they weren't going about it via crime, it's a relatively innocent thing to want to do. Like, we're already doing the nasty. Let's just get a van to do it in. Sure. It's not like they're gonna do it to other people in the van. It's not like a very sinister van. It's their van. Listen, if I was 21 in 1990, the lengths I would go to get a van so that Winona Ryder would sleep with me in the van.
specifically Winona Ryder.
Have you seen her in the movie? I have. I'd do crime to get that van. If she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna fuck in the van," I'd be like, "What do I gotta do to get this van? What needs to happen to get the van?" Sure, I can see it. Would I do this stupid of a crime? Probably not.
Would you take the mentally underdeveloped person,
Who can break into doors?
break in doors, and then leave them there
Oh,
to
no.
get a bang van?
No.
Okay.
I think fast enough, I could come up with another reason why I accidentally let Edward into the room. I would so swing that story to make me out to be the good guy. Oh, I'm not trying to steal your stuff, Dad. I wanted to show Edward, our new friend, how cool this room is.
Or even, like, I told him to go to the bathroom and he got confused.
He got lost.
Like,
dude, you could play this situation off a million different ways, and Jim just fumbles the bag in every way possible, and it ultimately results in his death. Jim fumbles the bag, dude. He's already sleeping with 1990 Winona Ryder. He's got her. She's into him at the time. And he thinks to himself, the way I can perpetuate this is to steal from my dad? What a dumbass. What an idiot. What a stupid motherfucker. It totally tracks with his character arc, though, so it's not bad writing. But what a dipshit. Unbelievable.
teenagers suck.
Even if I did stoop to stealing all this shit from my dad, I could lie my way out of that situation in a way that no one gets in trouble.
I've lied my way out of stupider shit.
This is not a situation where I leave the developmentally behind, not really a person to take the rap for my dumbassery. I am too smart for that. What I'm saying is I'm better than Jim. That's not a high bar, but I'm better than Jim.
Yeah, you could just walk on the ground and be better than Jim.
Hey, yo, the bar is underground. So they get into the house, they get into the room, and by they I mean Edward. The door swings shut behind him, and it locks in a million different ways, and an alarm goes off, and the police are alerted, which frankly I think is a bit dramatic.
Yeah, I feel like...
What kind of home security system auto-triggers a police response? I know a lot of home security systems...
Every home security system?
Well, I know they auto-trigger an emergency response, and by bog standard, that denotes a police officer in this country. But in the 90s, in 1990...
Fair. But I also...
A 3-squad car response?
That's not my question. The police also have a way to disable the system because they say that we're disarming the system. But that's not my question. My question is that dad is hiding way more than fucking technology in that room.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be.
If you've seen it, the dad from Euphoria, and you know the one I'm talking about, needed that room.
I don't know what that is, but anyways. He basically gets arrested. And he's getting pulled out of the house. They tell him, come out with your hands up, and he comes out and he puts his hands up, but Edward's hands, as I'm sure we're all aware by now, are effectively weapons. They're razors and also knives and in some cases scissors. So they're telling him to drop his weapon and he can't really. I mean, it's his hands. He can't take his hands off. They're his hands. So he doesn't really know what to do. He's obeying as best he can, but
his hands are up. He's slowly walking towards them.
This is 1990s America, so he does not automatically get shot. In the year of our Lord, 2024, if you come out to police demanding you put your weapons down and you've got knife hands, they're not going to ask more than one time. If you don't, they're just going to kill you. Because that's how it works now.
The housewives save him and then immediately turn on him, too.
Oh, yeah. They stop him being killed and just confirm all their suspicions that he's the bad guy that Esmeralda said he was. And we once again have Esmeralda being like, I told you he got Satan in him. Settle down, all right? No one likes you already. You're not making a case for yourself to be part of the gang, okay? And yet somehow at the end of the movie, she is a part of the gang. It's wild. So, Edward gets arrested and he goes to jail. And the cop, the one cop who gets lines in the movie is our he is our token black person in the movie. Is the
Yeah.
cop. Which I didn't make a note of, but I thought about it right now. He is our token black
Because you were
person
gonna
in the
have to
movie.
describe him, and then you were thinking about it. That's how that
Yep.
goes.
And he is an intelligent human being, and he's like, there's something that's not quite right with this guy. We should probably take care of him in like a non-threatening way. He's like, this guy needs some help. He even talks to the psychiatrist. He's like, is he gonna be okay out there? And the psychiatrist is like, yeah, he'll be fine. What?
Mental health in this country
Taking a real nosedive.
has come a long way
In one way.
since then, but it's also still not great.
Yep.
We're
It-
getting better.
It's still so funny to me though that he was like, he asked the psych, he's like, what's this guy's deal? And he's like genuinely interested in the answer.
And the psych does he's like, well, his extended isolation has left him not knowing right from wrong. Goes on like this big long spiel, and then the guy's like,
And he breaks it down in a way that's like, oh, okay, all of this tracks and makes sense. It's not like, oh, I wouldn't believe you unless you were a doctor. He's describing very simple, logical answers as to why Edward got caught doing a crime. When was he really doing a crime? Not really. He was an accessory to a crime, unknown to him.
He didn't
know he was doing
he didn't
a crime.
snitch.
Sure, and he didn't narc either.
So that's why he took the blame for it. So technically, like, to the law, he looks like he did the crime.
Right, but the one cop who's involved in the situation is like, I don't know about all this shit. And he tells Edward, he's like, take care of yourself, because this smells fishy to me, and sends him on his way. And the parents also came to the jail and talked to Edward, and they were like, damn those television programs. They're like searching for any possible explanation as to why Edward would do crime.
Social commentary again, because that's like the big thing from the late 80s, early 90s is like,
the TV's ruining the damn children.
the video games are making them violent. No.
Cough, cough. School shootings. Cough, cough.
Like I said, early 90s.
Right, so Columbine.
The start of it all.
It all went downhill from there. So Edward goes home, and he's just sort of there, and he's kind of shell-shocked by the whole ordeal, and then Winona Ryder comes home, and she's like, holy shit, you're here. And she's like, thank you for not snitching, and he's like, you're welcome. And it's like, oh shit, he knows.
Anything else you want to say there, lady?
He knows that you fucked him over, and he's not going to say anything about it. Okay. Best friend said he's not an art. When they do eventually come home, by the way, the journalists hounding him to the door when he has been like a clearly shown like underdeveloped individual, that's fucked up. That's bad journalism. I've had myself a journalism class or two, and I decided I didn't want to do that for a career because I don't like the moral gray areas of journalism. And they dive directly into the bad parts of morally gray journalism. And then just hound him. And then Jim is in the backyard somehow, and he's hooting and hollering at Kim, and Kim leaves Edward
to break up with Jim.
Break up with Jim, but he doesn't know that, and he's like, fuck this bitch, and he starts vandalism, which is not a good look for him.
Yeah, he gets jealous.
He's just
not
sad.
Jim. Edward
Gets jealous.
That was a little confusing.
Jim was already jealous for no reason. Jim, oh dude, it's so stupid. Jim's jealous of his own making. Because at the television showcase, when Edward gets asked if there's a special lady, Jim's like, oh, it's Kim. Oh, it's my girlfriend. And no one refutes him on it. And so he plants the seed in his mind that she's into Edward. And he just comes unglued at his own behest.
You're
It's
seeing
hilarious.
the brilliance of the movie. Look at you.
It's a well-written movie. He should have had that lady write all the rest of his movies. Maybe they would have been good too.
Some of his movies were based off other works, so we can only be so mad at him about...
Listen, Roald Dahl is fucked up, okay?
Do you think Roald Dahl and Tim Burton would have been friends?
Yes, they're both social pariahs. They would have been great friends.
Them and Dr. Seuss.
And then fucking Johnny Depp made himself a social pariah, sort of, by doing all the movies with Tim Burton.
They would have their own little Inklings club, like...
Yeah, they were fucking weirdos. And Helena Bonham Carter was in there being a weirdo. And Winona Ryder was like, okay, guys, you're too weird for me. And moved on.
She did, though.
And, like, they were all so weird. Roald Dahl would have totally fit in that club. But Roald Dahl is more fucked up than Tim Burton is.
I don't think so.
No, he is. No, he for sure is. He wrote all the works. Tim Burton just put them into his own brain.
Have you ever read the books? Any Roald Dahl book?
I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's a little fucked up. There's a lot more going on with the slavery of the Oompa Loompas. They don't get paid, bro! In the books, they're literally just pygmies. It's slavery. He kidnaps a bunch of dudes from elsewhere and makes them make confectionery. Roald Dahl is a bad man.
Anyway.
Bad!
Anyway.
The nice lady who wrote this movie is not bad. She just has some cynical takes on the neighborhood. She's not wrong.
She clearly has some childhood trauma she's working through.
Yes. So the wildfire rumor mill takes off, and word is going around that Edward practically raped Joyce, which is patently untrue. Also, how could he? He doesn't have the equipment. And then we get to Christmas, because time has had to pass somehow. And the neighborhood is collectively agreeing to not go to Bill and Peg's annual Christmas party. Bill doesn't really give a rat's ass about what's happening. He's
just singing carols
and decorating his house. And Edward is calmed down at this point and is doing ice sculptures, which is great. That's phenomenal. Tremendous. He's really honing in on his art.
He's expanding his
his horizons.
His artistic medium, he started with shrubbery, got into hair, has ice now.
Kim sees snow in her backyard and is like, the fuck? And goes outside. And he's working the stuff, and he's like really locked in on what he's making. It's this 20-foot tall sculpture. He's on a ladder, just going to town.
He doesn't even notice her.
He doesn't even see her, which makes the rest of the sequence just that more sad.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even see her. He's doing his thing. And she is just enthralled with the fact that she's seeing snow for effectively the first time, I would imagine. And she's dancing around in it. Now, having lived in Texas for the last 5 years.
This is like a thing that actually happens.
I have seen children who have never seen snow before witness snow coming from the sky en natural for the first time. And it's one of the most joyful things there is. It's such a treat to get to see a child witness snow for the first time, because it's a marvel. It's something you could never even put into words as a child. And kids, especially kids in Texas, who don't get it ever, got it like 2 years in a row, which is dope, to the detriment of the state. But
it was really cute.
It was
for
really cute
a minute.
for 5 minutes. And so it's totally plausible and downright understandable and warranted that she would see the snow and just like go into a trance-like dance in it. She's just spinning around, enjoying it. It melts on her face. She's tasting it on her tongue. It's movie magic, right? It's great. And then she gets a little bit too close to Edward as he's coming down and doing more detailed work. And he's working, he does a flourish, and she catches her palm.
That's not what happens.
What happens?
Jim walks up and yells, he scares Edward.
Jim startles him. I forgot about that.
And then he swings and he catches her.
He probably didn't need to swing so wide anyway, but he swings wide, catches her hand, And she goes, ow!
And then Jim acts like he's being chivalrous and defending her.
Which he's not. And she's like, get the fuck away from me, you fucking creep.
And so he tries to start attacking Edward to be the good guy.
Bullying Edward and shoving him. And he tells him to go home, go away, get out of here. And Edward does. And fucking Bill sees it and he's like, Ed, where are you going? Whoa, what are you doing?
Not hearing any of that happen.
He's really just in his own world up there on the roof.
Putting that fake snow down is really mind-consuming.
He's really locked in. And Edward scurries off, and then he has himself a little tantrum, and he starts destroying some shrubberies.
He has some big feelings he doesn't know how to express.
That is just the truth of the facts. Even though he's better now than he was when they found him, he's still basically a kid. And he's got some big feelings. He's been bullied. He's experiencing some trauma and betrayal for the first time. And he goes out and he takes the leg off of a sculpture he's made. And he's just rampaging around. He sticks some knives in some car tires. And he's just pissy. And he's ripping his clothes off to reveal his dark interior leather. And he's just going around. And he's not really being much other than like a guy who's walking around, other than deflating the car.
I was like, other than some small acts of vandalism.
He's doing mostly harmless vandalism. Mostly. And the housewives immediately call the police because they're bitches. And the police roll up and it's the same cop and he's like, I don't know about none of this. And he's just sort of looking around for him. Is not really working hard to find him. He's sort of cruising. And Edward is just sad and frustrated, and he creates a little devil shrine outside the hyper-religious lady's house, which is exactly what the fuck she deserves.
It's the best moment in the entire movie.
It's a tremendous moment. And he's sitting in a driveway, just sort of like trying to process stuff, and a dog comes up and sits right next to him, and he's cuts the hair off the front of the dog's face so the dog can see properly. And he gets a little smile, and the dog scurries away, and he sees the cops, and he says, police, and he runs away, which is the appropriate response to seeing police.
Unless the police have already seen you, in which case do not run away.
Because if you approach them, they'll shoot you. If you run away, they'll shoot you. So you have to, like, play the middle ground and just, like, be leery. In case it's unclear, I distrust the police state.
I'm terrified of most police officers. So
he scurries off and he runs to his fucked up house and wait. No, he is not yet.
No, he goes back home.
He goes back home.
Yep. Because we have to have the whole drunk shit.
We have to have an interaction with Winona Ryder again. And he has this interaction that's supposed to, I guess, play for a love story, but it doesn't. And they have their little interaction, and then we have a cutaway to Jim and his buddy getting hammered in the back of their van, and then Jim's like, I'll go kill him myself, which is a bit drastic.
You're gonna, I mean, he does bring a gun to a knife fight, so he is trying, but, like, also, Edward has giant knives for hands.
It's not a knife fight you were ever gonna win. You gotta cheat to win. Dude's insane. So he's like, I'll go kill him myself, which is stupid because he doesn't have a reason. He's got a drunk reason, which is not a reason. And so he gets his buddy to drive drunk to their house, and his buddy protests and then does
He's
the
like,
driving
don't make me
under
drive.
threat. He says, I don't want to drive. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I feel unwell. I don't want to do this. And his friend's like, I'll fucking kill you. Jim is just descended into madness at this point. And he's like, I'll fucking kill you. And so his friend's like, fine, Jesus Christ. Okay, better than dying, I guess. And drives.
Gonna die anyways, you drive that drunk.
Yeah, so he's just sweaving all over the road, left and right. And Kevin has a moment where he forgets how to be a person and doesn't hear the car.
Doesn't look both ways.
Doesn't look both ways when crossing the street. Edward sees the van, sees Kevin, tackles Kevin out of the way of the car, and saves him from being killed.
Which no one sees or cares about that part.
Winona Ryder sees it, but doesn't say anything because she doesn't know how to be a person. And he accidentally cuts up Kevin's face a little bit, trying to calm him down and, make sure he's okay. He cuts up his face because his hands are made of knives. And he freaks out, and then some neighborhood dad is like, hey, get off of him. And Edward swings wide again, and, he's got knives for hands, and so he slashes this guy in the neck. And then he's like, oh, and Edward is just like freaking out. He's just, oh boy, there's a lot going on right now.
And then Jim comes and attacks Edward, and
Jim comes and is like bashing on him, and Edward like stabs him in the arm, which is fair. And Jim is like, oh, look what he did to me. Pussy.
he's a very
You started this fight. You, at the very least, could try to finish it instead of being like, oh, he hit me. Oh.
He has a very Draco Malfoy moment.
Oh my
right
god.
there.
I've had to calm down.
Did I drudge up a memory of Draco Malfoy for you?
In the world of bad guys in Harry Potter, Draco Malfoy is the biggest fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Voldemort's evil, but he's bad at it. Fucking, who's the fucking
Grindelwald.
Hitler? Grindelwald is evil and he's good at it. Welcome, Johnny Depp, to another role you were robbed of. Grindelwald is evil and he's good at it, and that's horrifying. Draco Malfoy is such a fucking pussy.
Yep. He's literally a coward.
It's not his fault all the way. His dad's a manipulative bitch and
His
abusive.
dad's also a pussy.
His dad is a pussy, but he's at least willing to hit children. So, he's got that going for him.
He does try to kill Harry Potter at one point.
He has no qualms with abusing children.
Like, he literally tries
So
to-
anyways, Jim is Draco Malfoy.
There we go.
But we don't have evidence of him being abused as a child, so we can only assume he's just a bad guy. So Jim is a giant roach of a human. And all this results in Winona Ryder running up to Edward and just being like, run.
'Cause
And
the
I
cops-
said it, dude, I said it out loud before she said it in the movie, and I was like, good job, James, you know how to write movies. Because the cops are coming, and
Edward goes,
Edward
okay.
runs. Edward's like, great, I will run, and runs. And he runs back to his manor on top of the hill. The cop rolls up, crawls his little squad car in after him, gets out of his car, and is like, no, stop, come back.
Gets out of the view of the mob that is coming.
Out of the view of the mob of housewives and their husbands and their children. He's like, no, don't, ah. And he fires his gun a bunch of times in the air and is like, get the hell out of here. He whispers to himself because Edward's nowhere to be seen. And he holsters his gun and he goes back out and he's like, it's all over. Go away. But then does not do a good cop thing and stay there to ensure that no one addresses the dead body. And so it results in a mob forming and going up the hill to the house. And we don't know how, but Winona Ryder beat the mob to the house in order to have some more interactions with Edward.
Also, the mob takes like nearly 10 minutes to climb up that like that hill.
Yeah, they do take their time.
Cause like there's a whole slight romance, then there's a fight, and then
A fight that Edward just straight up is losing for all of this time.
another conversation, and then they get up there. Like,
And it's, if I'm Jim, right? I know I'm a giant pussy, and I brought a gun to this fight, and I whiffed, first of all. I whiffed my first shot, and then something, I lose my gun in the fight.
I think it's buried under the rubble.
It gets buried in the rubble or what have you. I've seen Edward take a cinder block to the back of the head and go down. So I pick up an iron cudgel, effectively, and I kick him, and then I hit him in the back with the iron cudgel. And Edward just tries to get back up. After 3 more rounds, he hits him a bunch. I did not bother counting. It was so many times. He just keeps hitting him. After 3 more strikes to his back, I would probably give up and run away, because at that point in the fight that I am winning, I would have perceived he doesn't hurt. He grunts when you hit him, but he seems to have this Terminator-esque forward momentum in that he just keeps coming. He just keeps getting back up. It's not like in Rocky, where he gets the shit beat out of him and he comes back for more haggard than the last time. It's like the Terminator. He just gets back up. No worse for wear. Edward takes no noted damage in this fight, and Jim gets battered, stabbed, and thrown out of a window. Never a fight he was gonna win. So then he gets battered, stabbed, and thrown out of a window. After he tosses Winona Ryder.
Yeah, because Winona Ryder hits him in the back of the head, and so he comes round after her, and that's when Edward's like, no. And
Edward said, well, I guess you'll have to die.
And literally killed him. And
literally did kill him. And I don't think he was bothered by that at all. And then Winona Ryder's like, okay, goodbye. And goes and does her best to convince the mob that he has been killed and they should not continue to look for him. So she does the cop's job for them.
I mean, like, she did save him. Like, she said goodbye, like, okay, bye, but it was more like
and then she said, I love you, and we don't have to talk about that because that's silly.
I was just more saying it was more like a remorseful bye. Like, she knows that
she can never come back here.
Yeah. And he can never come down.
Yep. It's hurried, but effectively communicated that this is the end of your interaction with normal people. Which is the great way to end a tragedy. And she convinces them that he's dead because she finds a spare Scissorhand. And she's like, do you want to fucking see? Here it is. And they all go, oh, fine. And they all go home.
No one takes Jim's body either.
Yeah, they just sort of leave his ass there.
She's like, they killed each other. The end. And everyone's like...
And no one questioned it.
Everyone's just like, boo. Lame end of the story.
I walked all the way up here for this? Fucking assholes. And so they carry on back down the hill. Edward lives a solitary, sad life, trimming his hedges at his manor, and not interacting with people.
Making it snow.
Oh, yeah, and then he gets that Amazon Prime delivery subscription of giant ice blocks to his manor so that he can do up snow. And
because remember, that's the reason this whole we even know this story,
right? Because we were talking to the grandchild about snow. And then occurs, as we see him doing the snow that we actively see happening at the beginning of the movie, oh, he can't age either. He was born looking like 27-year-old Johnny Depp, and he will remain that way forever, which is tragedy. It's a tragedy. Now, we've done a lot of movies on this show. We've done a lot of movies. We used to do it on Twitch. Now we do it on YouTube. You can find all of them where podcasts are found. We have done some real stinkers.
Viva Rock Vegas comes immediately
Viva
to
Rock
mind.
Vegas. We have done some Harry Potter shit.
Done all the Harry Potter shit.
We would do Twilight if I hadn't already had to watch all of them. We did 50 Shades of Grey, for God's sakes. This movie, I was so ready for it to be bad. I strictly do not like Tim Burton movies. I don't care for his art style, and that's just a personal thing. Don't you do it.
No, I was...
I just haven't liked what he does in terms of his art. It's not to say that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not for me. I was really expecting this to be another one like James and the Giant Peach, which was just a nightmare front to back, and I ranted and raved about it. It's a great episode. You should listen to it.
It was an alarming episode for me.
It was an alarming episode. I dove
not...
into some trauma.
I was not expecting that episode to go the way it did.
It got real deep. This movie was one I would watch again. It has a phenomenal cast. The art direction's incredible. It's so unlike any of the other monstrosities that Tim Burton has made. I really, really enjoyed it. I won't say it's like 10 out of 10 great, but I'll give it like a 7, with the only real downside to it being that there was a hurried and nonsense romance to it that never needed to be there. It's just so good. The story is good. It's a great commentary on not being a giant piece of shit in every regard. I really thought it was going to be bad, and I was so pleasantly surprised to find that it was not bad. And next one we're doing is Corpse Bride, and we're back to Tim Burton animation, so I'm sure it'll be fucking awful.
It's also a musical.
Oh boy. Oh man. That means I'll have lyric content. Oh, you'll want to be there for that. Is that next weekend? Because we're doing them more frequently now, as best we can.
What's next weekend?
Fuck if I know.
We have stuff
we're doing
going
D&D
on.
next weekend.
Maybe
No.
next weekend.
We might do one next weekend. If we don't, it'll be after that. So Corpse Bride coming up next. That'll be the next one you hear in podcast land. Thank you very much for listening. I don't say it very often in the recordings, but thank you very much for listening. We appreciate all of your downloads and listens.
Especially
We
that
love
one
all
person
of
in
you.
Oregon.
Yeah, the one person in Oregon, and also shouts out to Brazil this month. Way to listen, guys. Appreciate ya. Have a wonderful night. Or day. Fuck.
Sorry. You like to put it in there?
No,
Okay.
I'll just edit it out before you even close out Audacity. I'll cut it out.
Okay. I didn't know you were going to go.
I didn't know I was going to either until I was doing it. You're cutting too close to the quick here. This is how Aries' legs bleed.
I didn't do that.
No, you didn't do that. Yeah, good movie.
Sorry about this week, guys. And
We didn't
Poppy
stream because
playtime.
I've had to work nights.
James had to work nights and I couldn't move for most of the week. Like, physically, literally could not move. So, Poppy should be finished Monday. I think we can finish it. Between the two of us. Because we're at the end. I've seen where we are on other people's playthroughs. I haven't watched the end. But I've, like, watched up to that point. So I've seen how much is left. And I think I can finish it on Monday.
Probably.
So that's the goal, is to finish Poppy. And then I have a game I want James to play. And then we'll see what happens with streams after that. But yeah, sorry that we had another week of nothing. It was not intended, but was just a rough week physically for me. And then James was also not home.
Yeah, I was
James would
getting
get
home
home
at
at, like-
9:45 or 10 p.m. every night because I have been having to shoot a video with night shift for my job, and I had to do it again Tuesday.
So, but Monday we'll be here. Promise.
Pinky swears it. Okay, goodbye.
Alrighty.